Give my regards to your boss when you get home.
Out of the countless reviews of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, longtime fans of the series and certain critics pan the game for multiple reasons that come down to 3 different consecutive causes. The Metal Gear Solid 5 story being split up into 2 games, said story being weak in terms of Metal Gear Solid stories and lackluster in its second chapter with weird characters delivering some out-of-place lines, and lastly the change to an open-world gameplay style coupled with Snake, the main character, not having a lot of lines or input in the cutscenes at that. But are we judging this game too early with little to no consideration on what it does with its plot and the ending of the Metal Gear Solid series? If we take a deeper look into the key aspects of the game with an analysis point of view, we can unfold what Hideo Kojima successfully delivered as the finale to his acclaimed series.
Trojan horse is in!
Let's start with the first critique. Metal Gear Solid 5 was supposed to be one whole game. Instead, we got 2. Metal Gear Solid 5: Ground Zeroes, and Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. This was due to an extension in the release date for The Phantom Pain. The Phantom Pain was slated for a March 2014 release date, being one of the first games on the new generation of consoles. But due to the extension and the demand for a Metal Gear game from higher-ups at Konami and fans, Kojima made the decision to make the prologue of The Phantom Pain its own game, titling it Metal Gear Solid 5: Ground Zeroes. Ground Zeroes released December 18, 2014 with positive reviews and excellent reception, but with one minor inconvenience due to this release date issue. The game was too short. Powering through the main mission of the game only takes you 45 minutes to an hour. This game helped give a look as to what would take place in The Phantom Pain, specifically with its gameplay. Cutscene style, cassette tapes, the list goes on and on. But the downside to this was early criticisms about The Phantom Pain and how it's being handled. It created a disconnect between the 2 games. If you didn't play Ground Zeroes, you wouldn't have a good grasp on why you started in the hospital in The Phantom Pain. But is that really an issue? Along with the disconnect of the beginning of the game, the story of the game is also a source of criticism. The Phantom Pain takes place between Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker and Metal Gear, the first game in the series. The plot contains 2 storylines: the weapon to surpass Metal Gear, XOF, Skullface, and the other plotline that tries to tie up the loose ends and plot holes in the Metal Gear timeline. Both of these plots have a significant impact to the story that carry very memorable moments, but there are a couple of scenes and subplots that drag it down from time to time. An example of this would be Chapter 2, Race. Chapter 2 starts out strong. Diamond Dogs just defeated Skullface's XOF force and obtained their Metal Gear, Sahelanthropus. But it turns out XOF are still operating in Afghanistan and Africa. While you eliminate the last units of XOF, the story doesn't really bring anything interesting until the very end. You are stuck doing random missions and side ops until the story kicks back into gear and tells you the final story of Eli, the vocal cord parasites, and Quiet. It's a struggle to get through this section of the game, just to get to its underestimated ending. But speaking of Quiet, there are many magnificent characters in this game. The legendary Big Boss, Revolver Ocelot, Kazuhiro Miller, Dr. Huey Emmerich, Skullface, Quiet, Code Talker. The list goes on and on. But even excellent characters can detract in the correct setting. Skullface is the definition of a villain. In Ground Zeroes, he's not even portrayed as a human. He's a monster with a past, seeking revenge on those who deserve it. and he'll stop at nothing in order to get what he wants. He destroys your mother base, your army, everything. But when it comes to the Phantom Pain, his inclusion is kind of pathetic. He shows up time to time to tempt you, showing you his Metal Gear and the power of his forces. Eventually, at the end of Chapter 1, Revenge, you sneak into an XOF base in order to stop him from releasing the English strain of the vocal cord parasite. Eventually, you climb into a jeep and ride with him up to the base where he's keeping Sahelanthropus, bragging about his plan and why he wants revenge. While it's kind of awkward that Snake is quiet throughout the whole thing, that's another subject we'll be discussing later. At the end of the scene, he starts to become that villain you feared in Ground Zeroes again, until he gives you an awful line delivery that's humorous if anything, and his character goes down the drain.
Such a lust for revenge? Oh!
To make it worse, you don't even have a boss fight with him. You just finish him off, and while it's satisfying to shoot off each of his limbs that both you and Miller lost due to his treachery, it still feels wrong to just kill the villain, then go. But his vision is still alive through the XOF forces. Quiet is also a source of tension in the grand scheme of the story. Hideo Kojima has always had pervy Easter eggs in his game, even having some female characters given a sexual element like Eva from Snake Eater. But Quiet takes the cake, only wearing a... God, this is so awkward. But Quiet takes the cake. Only wearing a bikini and leggings, many fans pan her as an overly sexualized female character ever since the first E3 trailer. But out of all these characters, one stands out the most. And according to every fan that hates this game's story, is the one who subconsciously ruins it. The Phantom Pain, in my opinion, is a more realistic Metal Gear game, so on the decision to cast Kiefer Sutherland as Big Boss, it seemed to make sense. This was not the case for fans, however. After years and years of David Hayter voicing Snake, it seemed wrong just to throw him out. Even if you are annoyed by the voice change, you won't hear Snake as much as other Metal Gear Solid games. Big Boss in this game is almost dead silent. Many cutscenes are just filled with others talking and almost nothing from Snake himself. This even occurs in very important dialogue, like the previously mentioned Jeep ride to Sahelanthropus. Snake is just quiet, void of any comments on what Skullface is saying, making the scene awkward for a lot of people watching. Another element in this is the ending of the game. Mission 46, Truth. The man who sold the world makes you replay the beginning of the game. You get to watch Ahab crawl helplessly on the ground to follow after Ishmael. But the mission soon takes a turn. At the end of the mission, instead of waking back up in the ambulance, you follow Ishmael's escape from the ambulance. And there to help him is Revolver Ocelot. And after Ocelot helps him out, we see a shot of Ahab still in the ambulance. You soon see Revolver helping out Big Boss escape on a motorcycle. Flashback to the present, to Snake listening to the tape. Big Boss telling him that he's actually the medic in the helicopter that was shot down in Ground Zeroes. You were, and are now, the Phantom of Big Boss. A lot of fans flipped the table at this point and took a stab at Kojima. It seemed like a cop-out and a lazy twist in the grand scheme of this whole storyline. But are we being too hasty here? What if this was the plan all along? What if this was the reason Snake was quiet in a lot of those cutscenes? What if you were Big Boss? Because you were there, in the cutscenes, talking to those characters. Kaz, Ocelot, Skullface, Quiet, and Big Boss. While the second chapter of The Phantom Pain has only an interesting beginning and end, the first chapter is really where it hits home. After the beginning hospital mission, it's all about building up your new private militia and working contracts in order to get closer to XOF. Throughout the game, there are several different lengthy cutscenes with brooding cinematics and intriguing world building. The hospital mission, finding Kaz, the Skull's introduction, Huey's torture, All of these are just great examples of cutscenes that are impactful and incredible cinematics. While the cutscenes aren't as long as cutscenes in the past Metal Gear games, they definitely hold their own, and provided is extra cassette tapes to help give information about the subject if you want to look deeper down the rabbit hole. There are also many event cutscenes that trigger on certain occasions. An example of this would be if your army has low morale. They'll pick fights with each other, ending with a confrontation from you, Big Boss. Or, on a lighter subject, if it's your birthday, the game will trigger a cutscene where your army will throw you a surprise birthday party. These even relate to certain buddies that you acquire throughout the game. Once you pick up D-Dog as a puppy in the wild, you get to meet him back at Mother Base and see him turn into an adult DD that will go on missions with you. Quiet's cutscenes are also fantastic, from her arrival on Mother Base to her rain scene when she has 100% Infinity with you. If it's also your birthday and you have 100% Affinity with Quiet, it'll trigger a cutscene of her firing upon you, only to end up with her spelling HBD or Happy Birthday on a crate full of cigars just for you. Speaking of Quiet, as mentioned before, her character is overly sexualized in unnecessary fashion. But Kojima gives a reason. Due to the damage she sustained in the hospital trying to assassinate you, she underwent parasite therapy, transforming her into a superhuman while having a vocal cord parasite strain in her. Long explanation short, the parasites made it so she doesn't eat, but gains energy through photosynthesis, so she constantly needs the sun. Yes, you heard that right. Quiet is a plant. This is why she cannot wear clothing and loves water. Ignoring the obvious, her character is one of the best in the game. She acts as a double agent sent to kill Big Boss with the English strain of the parasite, but chooses to keep quiet because, to quote Ocelot,
he's in love with the legend.
She's in love with Big Boss and chooses to work with him instead of fight him. And if you cannot stand seeing Quiet in bikini constantly, eventually you can unlock both the XOF Task Force clothes for Quiet and the Sniper Wolf costume. While the Sniper Wolf costume is a great homage, it doesn't really cover that much up still. The XOF is just Quiet wearing SWAT gear, however. While much can't be said for Skullface and his character, we cannot ignore his intentions. Ignoring the goofy lines, Skullface is a man with a plan. The vocal cord parasites are his weapon to surpass Metal Gear. This terrifying sickness finds its victims by their language, practically making this parasite genocidal. He could even end a race just by putting one patient zero with that language strain in the country, and the race will be gone in a month or two. Not only does he have that, but also a Metal Gear, a bipedal tank capable of launching nuclear warheads, making him one of the most powerful men nobody knows. Even when he's stopped, you see his reflections and actions carry forward. Huey Emmerich falls victim to what Skullface was trying to achieve. When Big Boss and Kaz got their revenge, they left Skullface for dead, to suffer for what he did to them. Until Huey ends Skullface's misery. Not enacting revenge, but just ending his misery. Huey also falls victim to his own lies, trying to blame Big Boss with the second parasite outbreak on Mother Base, caused by Huey with radioactive material infecting the cure to the strain that attacked your base earlier in the game. Eventually, Huey is sent off Mother Base per the orders of Big Boss, and Skullface's impression finally comes to an end. But was that your choice? Did you just spare Huey from death? Or was that Hideo Kojima's decision? Thinking back, Snake never said anything during Huey's trial, only the final verdict. But why? Maybe it's because you, yourself, are watching all these events unfold with your own eyes, not the eye of Big Boss. We know at this point that the twist in the end is actually you are Big Boss's phantom. While on the surface it looks like a cheap twist, Hideo Kojima does not do cheap twists. Think about it this way. Why doesn't Snake talk a lot during cutscenes? Was it because Kiefer Sutherland only wanted to speak a few lines? Was it that Kojima wanted other characters in the spotlight? Or that he just wanted to end the series and tie everything up so his leave from Konami would be successful? None of the above. Every time Snake spoke, he did it to advance the plot or break an impasse and make a decision to decide the future events of the game. If we take this twist into consideration and go back through the game, it's obvious that from the beginning something is up. In other Metal Gear Solid games, Snake would have talked a lot by now, Since we know that Ishmael is the real big boss, we can understand why he talked and helped you out in the first mission of the game. Even at this point, you see hints. Ahab not responding back to Ishmael and only reacting through body language and grunts. Moving further into the game, Big Boss is silent when important events are happening and characters are talking. This is because Kojima wants you to be in the cutscene, not just someone who just wants to watch the events unfold for themselves. He doesn't want the main character just talking about the obvious. He only wants them to talk when it's only necessary to the plot. This system creates a perfect dynamic of making you feel like you're really in the game, witnessing everything that's happening around you. Couple that with the fact that every mission is customizable, bending to your will on how you want to assess it, whether it's loud, quiet, lethal, or non-lethal. Like Big Boss said on the cassette tape you receive at the end of the game, everything is up to you. You are now Big Boss, and you are creating a legend for yourself. It's clear that Hideo Kojima wanted not Big Boss, but you, the player, to be the main character of the game. So why did Hideo Kojima give us this ability, made us the legendary Big Boss? During this time, Hideo Kojima knew that this would be his last Metal Gear Solid game. Konami was abusing their relationship with him, not even granting him basic rights like personal internet when he was at work. Kojima needed to leave in order to create the games he wanted to create. Konami got word, agreed to the situation, and let him leave right at the end of the Phantom Pain's production. Explaining why Episode 51, Kingdom of the Flies, is a mission that is not in the game, but is in a DVD that comes with the collector's edition, explaining the mission and its intent. The true ending to the game, Big Boss stopping Eli from using Metal Gear's Sahelanthropus, and leaving him for dead with the English strain of the vocal cord parasite. Luckily, a young Psycho Mantis removes the parasite, saves Eli from the firebombing of the island the battle takes place on, and delivers Eli to Ocelot for training to turn him into Liquid Snake. In the end, there are many things wrong with this game, and many things right, but you can't deny, even in the face of adversity, Hideo Kojima delivered us an incredible experience with an underestimated twist to make it feel like our own story, make it feel like we carry on the legend of the story itself, make us feel like the man who sold the world.